Update. Am I the a-hole for confronting my boyfriend with his wife in public? Original post. I, 26 female, started dating my now boyfriend, 35 male. We have been dating for 7 months. A month ago, he told me he had to talk to me about something important. I honestly thought maybe he just wanted to break up with me, but what he said was so much worse. My boyfriend sat me down and said that there was a problem. The problem being his falling in love with me. When he said that, I got so confused. I didn't understand what the problem was. I asked him why that was a problem and that when he told me that he's actually married and has been divorced and lied about his age as he's actually 42. I sat there shocked and I didn't know what to say. When I finally came out of it, I got up, grabbed my stuff, and told him to never call or text me again. He tried saying what most cheaters do, that I was different, and his wife and him hadn't been happy in a really long time and was considering getting a divorce. I still grabbed my stuff and left, and I didn't think twice about it. The problem came about 2 weeks ago. My period was 2 months late. I wasn't worried because I am extremely irregular, but after being late for a second month, I decided to take an EPT. It was positive. I thought maybe it was a false positive, so I took 6 more tests and they were all positive. I was so upset I cried out of shock and anger because of the situation as a whole. I called my now ex-boyfriend. He didn't respond. I texted him telling him I needed to talk to him and radio silence. After days of calling and texting, he finally answered the phone and said if I was pregnant, he didn't think it was his, and to stop texting and calling, then hung up. I was livid. How dare he? I wasn't the one lying and cheating. Now being pregnant, I would have to explain to my family the real reason I broke up with him and tell them I'm pregnant. Fast forward to Mother's Day weekend, my family and I went out to dinner Saturday night to celebrate. I'm about 12 weeks along in my pregnancy and have to pee all the time. As I was walking to the bathroom, I saw my lying ex, and he was there with his family or friends, and based on body language, his wife. I was so hurt and angry about everything. I didn't think before acting. I went to their table, I introduced myself. I told everyone at the table what happened from the start to finish, showed them pictures of us together and texts. As a final note, I announced my pregnancy. And before leaving the table, I grabbed his drink and threw it at him. I then looked over at his wife. She was bawling and I felt so bad, but I was just so hurt and angry. Did I take it too far? Am I the a-hole? Should I have done things differently? Edit. He doesn't have children. His wife and him were having dinner with all adults at their table while my family was celebrating Mother's Day. I'm considering terminating the pregnancy but have not decided one way or the other. My ex reached out offering to pay for the procedure because he doesn't want a child that never has. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Why would you carry a child for another man if you aren't married to him? This man you are pregnant by has the following qualities so far. 1. He is a cheater. 2. He is a liar. 3. He doesn't want children, so he will not be a decent father even if you have child support. Now, your feelings about him may be valid, but so is the assessment based on the info you gave. It's simply easier to raise a child with a willing partner, and one other than this guy. I was set on terminating until I heard my baby's heartbeat. Now I'm struggling to go through with it. I don't want him in my life, and I won't be asking for child support if I keep my baby. I never want to see him again. It's not just your baby though. Any child you carry for a man deserves the added stability of a 2-parent home. That's all I'm trying to say. Single parenting isn't all people make it out to be. Get out of here with that nonsense. If she doesn't put him on the birth certificate, it is just her baby. And considering he doesn't want a baby, he probably couldn't even fight for rights. OP, take that baby if you want it and go somewhere new and start over. Honestly, that's what I've been thinking. I've recently gotten a fully remote role and I'm looking to move out of state. However, my family's being very supportive and are okay with whatever I decide. They have also stated they will help with my baby if I keep it. My sibling has children and they're very involved in their lives, so I don't doubt what they are saying. So it's a very viable option to just stay near my family and raise my baby. After hearing my baby's heartbeat, it's hard to think about terminating the pregnancy. Whatever choice I make will have a life-altering effect. If I choose to keep my baby, my life changes. If I choose to have the procedure, my life still changes, and I'd have to live with going through with it. Not the whole. I don't know that there's such a thing as taking it too far in this case. I kind of wish more women did this to men like that. Perhaps fewer men would do it if this became more common. You could text him back. and point out that if he doesn't want children, he should be more careful where he dips it. And if you decide to keep the kid, he's going to end up paying a lot more than that. Terrible situation all around. I think you get a pass on anything that isn't illegal on this one. Best of luck whatever you decide to do. And now for the update. His wife reached out to me and wanted to meet up. I met up with her. I felt like it was the least I could do after everything that happened. She thanked me for everything I did and said and let me know she filed for divorce. She had enough of the lies and cheating. I was one of many over the time of their marriage. Told me I was the first woman to actually present pictures, texts, a pregnancy test, an ultrasound, and I felt I was being genuine about what happened. I apologized, saying I never wanted to embarrass her. I was just so angry I saw red. I told her if I had known he was married, I would have never dated him. She told me to not worry and believed me, especially with what I did when I saw him. She apologized to me for everything he did. This woman is a freaking saint. She deserves better. We cried about everything we've been through and comforted each other through this mess he created. I felt so much better having a heart-to-heart with her and wish her the best. It was no surprise that he came looking for me, begging me to forgive him. I told him to get lost and I never wanted to see him again, especially after saying the baby was not his. I wasn't surprised he tried coming back, especially after his wife filed for divorce. When it comes to my baby, there is also an update. After a lot of thinking, I had decided to keep my baby. Unfortunately, I was having issues with some bleeding due to the fetus not being fully attached properly to my uterine wall. While being on bed rest this past week, the bleeding got worse and I lost my baby. After having the miscarriage, it's been a very difficult time. I know everything happens for a reason, but it really hurts. I have a lot of guilt surrounding the miscarriage because I wanted to terminate, so I partially blame myself. So now I'm just taking some time to heal and grieve my baby. Thank you for all the advice and comments. Honestly, so glad your wife didn't blame the OP. I hope they remain friends and thrive to rub it in the ex's face. Poor OP and the wife. I hope she's found a way to stop blaming herself. She's not to blame for her miscarriage, no matter what she might have thought when she first found out. Glad the women in the story helped each other and both dumped the cheating ex. Hope they're both in a better place now. Finally, a wife who doesn't immediately blame the mistress but instead recognizes that her husband is to blame, especially when he lied to both of them. I've read too many stories of wives saying she trapped him or she came on to him and then trying to work it out with a cheater. It's so refreshing to see a wife say, "I'm leaving," and recognize that he did this. I know that there are a lot of situations where the mistress knows he's married and shares the blame. I'm just speaking to the situations where they're both duped. Last update. Things are good now after a long healing process. I started fresh. My miscarriage took a very hard toll on my body and there were lots of complications post-miscarriage. After finally healing properly physically and getting cleared with my doctor post-miscarriage, I decided to do something for myself. My job is completely remote, so I have been traveling a lot, living in different places for a few months before exploring something new. My primary focus now is healing spiritually and mentally after such a difficult time. Even though losing my baby was awful, I have a fresh start where I can be completely free of everything that happened. His ex-wife, because she did get a divorce, and I keep in touch. We have been a great support system to one another during a very challenging time, but I'm thriving and persevering. Now for the last story. Update. Am I the a-hole for calling my boyfriend's sister a witch? Original post. My boyfriend, both 18, comes from a hockey-obsessed family and that's saying something considering we live in Canada. Lol. I don't know anything about hockey, except like the Maple Leafs haven't won a playoff in years. I don't know. I also know like the names of good-looking hockey players that sometimes show up on TikTok. My boyfriend doesn't care. He does plan on making me a hockey fan though. Anyways, I was a tiny bit scared to meet his family since his friends made a big deal out of how intense they were as hockey fans. But they were all pretty chill. I did get teased lightheartedly, but they were nice. Except his older sister, 28. She started asking me hockey trivia questions that I clearly didn't know the answers of, and kept mocking me. She then sort of looked me up and down and said, "You're one of those girls, aren't you?" I asked her what she meant, and she said I was a girly girl considering how much I dressed up for a casual family dinner. I asked her why that was an issue, and she said it wasn't and all his girlfriends have been girly girls, but at least they were pretty. I was really hurt by that. I asked her why she was being so rude and she told me that she was just telling the truth. Apparently, my boyfriend has a type and I don't fit that. He also had standards and dated people on his level who, despite their girliness, knew the basics of hockey and were actually pretty. I was confused, hurt, and annoyed and ended up calling her a freaking witch under my breath. And surprisingly, she heard it and started yelling at me and said that I better treat her with respect or else. I just said whatever and waited for my boyfriend. He was trying to find something in the basement. I stuck to him the entire night, but his sister kept glaring at me, and before I left, she told me that she was just being honest and telling me how incompatible we are. That I had no right to call her a witch and she wanted me to apologize. I said no and left, but she found my Insta and sent me pictures of his exes to prove her point and said, "Now where's my apology?" I haven't answered yet, but I'm conflicted. I know I'm not his type, but I didn't think it was that big of a deal. I also feel like I don't have to apologize since she was being a massive witch, but I guess she wasn't wrong and was indeed telling the truth. I don't know. I'm just hurt. Am I the a-hole? Edit. My boyfriend isn't aware of anything that's going on, and my friend who told me to post on here just read this and told me that I'm missing a very important piece of information. I'm brown and my boyfriend and his family are white. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. If she was just telling the truth and expecting you to handle it, she can likewise just deal because you were just telling the truth. Can't with people who disguise blatant insults as just telling the truth. Not the a-hole, and I absolutely hate that word, and rarely if ever use it because I don't think that gendered words should be used as slurs. But damned if that woman didn't deserve it. I'm Canadian, old enough to be both of your moms. A very bright, accomplished woman and a former model when I was your age. And I don't know a damn thing about hockey, nor do I care. I never have and I never will. Find it unbelievably boring. Can't tell the players apart for all the padding and uniforms and helmets. Could not care less. And you know what? Contrary to what the ridiculous, almost 30-year-old woman thinks, it doesn't say a damn thing about my character, or yours. Her comment about being on his level? What does that even mean? What does she think a level is? It's a meaningless insult meant to make it sound like he's, what, something special? Because he likes hockey and knows the rules and players? So do millions of other people. Doesn't make him special, or her. It's just a sport, and I have no issue with the people who love it. I'm very happy that they have something they enjoy, just as I am for anyone else with a hobby they love. But the fact that she thinks that being hockey fans makes them magically special and on some other level from you or anyone else, I'm literally snickering. My friend, not only was she rude AF to you, she's delusional. Also, maybe a little racist, but even if she isn't, it doesn't matter. Because she has no manners, and she's way too old to think that literally just being a hockey fan gives her the right to treat another human being like garbage. Delusional and ridiculous. It's just hockey. You were rude, but it was absolutely called for. Not the a-hole. Firstly, you sound really cool and I admire you already. Secondly, my boyfriend's actually a hockey player and so is his father. But again, so are loads of other people. It truly is just hockey. And his sister doesn't play, so yeah, you're right. And now for the update. Firstly, sorry for updating so late. Life's been crazy and I just randomly checked my account earlier and saw a few people asking me for an update. But yeah, I don't use this site and was a tiny bit overwhelmed seeing the response I got. I also saw my post on TikTok, which scared the heck out of me, but that's a story for another day. I got a lot of comments and advice. I firstly want to say thank you for being super kind to me. It was really heartwarming, and it gave me a little bit of courage to tell my boyfriend what happened. I eventually told him what happened and showed him the messages his sister had sent me. He just hugged me really tight and told me that if she ever says anything like that to me again, to tell him straight away. He made me block her and then he called her right in front of me and told her to get the heck out of his personal life and stop acting like such a creep. He informed me that his sister is barely in his life because of how she treats him and apologized for not telling me earlier. I was still a little unsure of everything, to be honest, especially since coming to the realization that his sister's comments were rooted in racism. I asked him what he thought about me being a person of color. He told me that it's new to him considering he's been surrounded by white people all his life, but he loves me regardless. He said, "Love guys." I might have fainted. I know a lot of people think I should run, but I don't want to. I think I love him too. Yeah, we're only 18. Come from extremely different cultures, and his sister is going to be a somewhat permanent thing, but right now I think we'll be okay. He doesn't think that way, nor do his other family members. His mom's a sweetheart. If I ever get even the slightest hint that he's actually a terrible person and just like his sister, then yeah, I'm definitely leaving. But they aren't the same person and I can recognize that. After all, my parents don't even know about our relationship because I'm scared of how they might act. It would be a bit unfair if I dumped him over the actions of his sister. Thanks again for all the sweet and supportive comments. I don't think you guys will ever understand how much I appreciated them. Dude sounds like a keeper. Don't let a sister sway you from what, by all accounts, is an otherwise great relationship, especially if he has no meaningful relationship with her. And based on your original post, the rest of his family seemed cool. Really glad it worked out. Good luck to you both. So glad he had your back, OP, and hope this might encourage you. Hubby and I got together at 18. That was 19 years ago. He has some extremely toxic family, and we want no contact with them. I'm happy to run interference for him too when necessary. His other family I adore, enough that I am his grandma's caregiver, and my family adores him too. So if you guys are right, keep your relationship healthy through life struggles. Don't worry about age. A happy, healthy relationship is a rock that will see you through things you never thought you could endure. And honestly, some of the dating horror stories out there make me pretty darn glad to have dodged all those bullets. Avoiding bad relationships isn't a bad life choice, in my opinion. Lol. So glad things have worked out well. Just because I'm nosy, but did he tell his parents about his sister? I would be really interested in finding out their stake on the situation. Would help establish whether they are a family rooted in racist beliefs or whether his sister is just an absolute horrible jerk. This might help you deal with any family situations in the future. Whatever the case, it's not about hockey. Though maybe it's worth getting yourself to some matches if you really like him. I believe he told his mother, who is now apparently not letting her back in the house until she straightens out. I'm sure there's a quite few other things happening considering she's been an issue for my boyfriend for a while now, but yeah. And my boyfriend is actually a great hockey player, and I do plan on going to all his games, if I can, once the games start. Update. Am I the a-hole for abruptly cutting my ex-fiancé out of my life? Original post. I, male 25, met my now ex-fiancé in my first year of college. We were both 18 and went from friends to lovers pretty quickly. We clicked so well, and everything was so easy and effortless. We had a really good relationship. It's the kind of relationship that everyone wishes they were in. The kind of relationship that people idolized and said, if those two broke up, then love doesn't exist. You get the picture. For the purpose of this post, let's call my ex Ashley. Ashley was everything I was looking for in a woman. Funny, smart, attractive, down-to-earth, and family-oriented. She wanted to build a life together. Our families got close over the course of our relationship. It was like we were already one big family before even getting married. As planned, I popped the question a year ago not knowing that this would change everything. She said yes, of course, but things started to change. Slowly but surely, over the months, she became more distanced. I tried to ignore it and chalked it up to nervousness. You know, cold feet before taking the big marriage plunge. I should have trusted my instincts. She always went out with her group of friends on the weekends. I've been on these outings before. Usually it's clubbing and drinking. It's not my scene, but I trusted my girl, so I had no problem with her going without me. These outings became much more frequent after I popped the question. I tried to ignore my gut feeling that something was wrong about this. I should have listened. Last week, I got a text from one of her girlfriends. She said she feels super guilty about what's been going on. According to her, Ashley has been worried about getting married. She feels that she hasn't had a chance to explore other options, and the prospect of getting locked down for life made her really anxious. At these outings, she will frequently flirt with guys, dance with them, grind on them, make out with them to get it out of her system. Since she wasn't sleeping with them, she didn't consider it cheating. According to the friend, she also went down on a guy in the club bathroom. She sent me pictures and videos from some of those escapades. My heart sank. I felt like I died that day. I thanked the friend for telling me and told her to keep it between us. For me, any form of cheating is a big no-no. I knew it was over. What makes this worse is that I have a past with cheating. She knows about my high school ex who cheated on me, and being a stupid teenager, I tried to end it all. This just makes this whole situation cut even deeper. She knows how much hurt she could cause, and still went ahead with it. I wanted to crawl into bed and cry for a month. I wanted to be weak. I felt weak. But I decided I would give myself the chance to mourn and cry over this after I protect myself.
Me and my fiancé share an apartment that we both pay rent for 50-50. I decided to take 2 days off work and covertly started to move my things out to my brother's house across the city. He knows about everything and immediately offered his place to me. The first day I moved non-essential items out. When Ashley got back from work, she made a comment about it, but I brushed it off by saying I sold some stuff and took some more stuff to a storage unit to tidy and clear space up in our apartment. She didn't question it. I was furious on the inside about everything that I found out about, but kept cool to avoid suspicion. She noticed I was a bit withdrawn, but I told her I was just tired and stressed from work. The second day, while she was at work, my brother and his wife came over to help me pack everything else, and I was fully moved out by 3 p.m. that day. Since then, I have avoided every single form of communication sent by my ex. I have completely cut her off. I refuse to talk to her or her family. I don't even want to confront her about what happened. She came home that day and saw everything was gone. She texted all my friends and family who in turn texted me, but I only responded to my parents, who are fully behind me in my decision. Her family and friends are blowing up my phone and saying that I'm an a-hole for leaving without a word. They've even been blasting me on social media. I don't really care. She knows what she did. To me, she is dead. She doesn't exist. Because of all this backlash, my brother and his wife are now also questioning if it was right of me to completely ignore everyone. This has caused me to doubt myself a bit, so here I am. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the updates. Not the a-hole. She knows what she did. You might want to tell everyone so they get off your back. I wouldn't go into details. She cheated. She's not telling anyone. OP doesn't want to be harassed. Please give space. OP is trying to just ghost her. That was really stupid, even if he's trying to be non-confrontational. He should have dumped her, requested she stick to the truth when discussing with mutual friends as he has evidence, but obviously she can be vague. If he completely turtles and disappears, she will try to write a narrative where OP is the villain and will have time to spread her version. OP deserves his engagement ring back and his share of the deposit on the apartment. Not the a-hole. Fiancé going down on random dudes in bathrooms? Nah, dump and block is the only thing to do. I also vote to send her parents the evidence of her cheating and to just tell others she cheated. No, WTF. The parents and siblings didn't do anything wrong, and it's pretty messed up to subject them to seeing an image or video of their child they may never wish to have seen. Verbally letting them know that their child had been unfaithful is fine. There is zero need to post the proof to everyone. Pretty messed up thing to do, and her actions do not justify that. Send her one message. Tell your family to back off and leave me alone. You know what you did, and unless you want me to send them all proof of what a lying, cheating POS you are, you will tell them to back off. Then block her. Why warn? Just do it and grab popcorn. Mini update. An overwhelming amount of people have convinced me to reach out to her parents and give them an explanation to clear my name. I will update when I get a chance tomorrow. Thank you for the responses. Now for the full update. After an overwhelming amount of people screamed at me in the comments to speak out, I decided to break my silence. I didn't want to make this whole thing public. Despite what she did, some part of me still cares for her. I was with her for 6 years. You can't just throw that away overnight. I came to the conclusion that the right thing to do was to talk to her parents. Only her family needed to know. Everyone else can have whatever opinion they want of me. I don't care. The people who truly know me and are close to me are the only ones I care about. I sent a detailed message of what happened to my closest friends and family. All of them, of course, believed me right away. No pictures needed. I didn't feel like it was necessary or appropriate to spread those pictures of her, so I didn't. Now that the people I cared about were sorted, I moved on to her parents. I messaged her mom, who, by the way, I had gotten so close to I considered her the second mom, and she considered me a son. She was very upset with me, but agreed to meet up. I felt like this needed to be an in-person conversation rather than Inuka drop in an email with everyone they know CC'd. I met her mom and her dad at a diner we used to frequent for breakfast. I know, so cliché. It was quite emotional. They were understandably upset. They didn't do anything wrong, and I cut them out of my life like nothing happened. I understood why they were upset, so when they were confronting me, I was very quiet, just listening, letting them get it all out. I admit I was tearing up with them. That is, until they accused me of some things. It's been a whole week since all of this went down. In that week, a lot happened. Apparently, according to her parents, my ex convinced everyone that I cheated and that she kicked me out. And I haven't been answering anyone because I was so ashamed of what I had done. Lol, I literally laughed out loud. I responded by saying that I am sorry and I wished them a happy life and walked out. I was so freaking upset. I couldn't even have imagined of being accused of this. What a freaking joke. I can't believe her parents would believe her and throw me under the bus so fast. I walked out because I'm pretty sure I would have said some things I'd regret to her parents. I didn't want to do this, but she left me no choice. I activated a nuclear option. I went home, made an email titled "For Your Reading Pleasure," and attached every picture her friend sent me, including screenshots of the chat with her friend where she expressed how guilty she felt about the cheating. I also attached the videos of her grinding and making out with other guys. I included a long explanation detailing everything that has happened since D-Day. I ended the email by saying that I do not wish to be contacted and that I expect my ring back at some point. I attached her, her parents, any friend I could think of, any coworker that I just so happened to know as well. Screw it. So that's where I'm at now. I may be the a-hole for sending that email, but she really tested my freaking limits when I found out what she was telling people. I have zero regrets. Currently crashing at my brother's place on a pull-out couch. He's helping me get through this, as much as one can guess. Who knows what kind of fallout that email will create. Either way, I'm gonna sit back and enjoy it with popcorn, whilst sobbing. That is why people on Reddit insists you tell people immediately, because usually when a cheater, after a long relationship involving family and common friends, they realize the future consequences. So it's easy to decide and manipulate people around her so she can move on easier when no one knows why you did what you did. Yeah, I was the one of the comments who said he needed to tell the family at least about what happened. If the ex is capable of cheating behind his back, she's capable of doing this. Though I suggest putting screenshots of the messages and snippets before the act. I'm not surprised her parents chose the ex. I mean, that's their daughter. Regardless who came first, there's a chance they'll pick her side. Now, this is kind of confusing because OP said everyone were calling him an a-hole for just moving out all of a sudden. And now the ex is saying she kicked him out? My reading comprehension skills may be off, but I'm just confused why they'd be calling him an a-hole for moving out without a word, if they knew that she kicked him out. Unless she told them much later on, which should have raised suspicions. I'm thinking they're mad at him for moving out because they think he gave up and didn't apologize according to them. Wholeheartedly, I feel that you did the right thing with this. Pulling nonsense like this is never okay, and trying to throw you under the bus should always come with consequences. My heart goes out to you, OP. She is their daughter after all, and they did try to contact you. I recognize why they reached out and why they believe their daughter. Still, OP and even his brother and wife were getting harassed by people he chose to cut out. OP seemed to not want to stir the pot and chose to just leave the situation because he didn't want anything to do with it anymore. But his ex throwing him under the bus, lying and ruining his reputation, leading to him getting harassed for an extended period of time by multiple people, even to the point where his family is getting harassed, isn't okay. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to help with my child? Years ago, when I was a freshman in college, I got my then-girlfriend pregnant accidentally. Typically, we used a combination of the pill and rubbers, but that night we decided to go without, and unfortunately, her hormonal birth control failed. She didn't realize she was pregnant until it was too late for Plan B. I assumed there would be a termination as we had discussed the possibility of exactly this scenario before in our relationship, and both agreed at a time it would be what we wanted. Unfortunately, when push came to shove, she decided to go back on that and press forward with a pregnancy. I was not on board and let her know that. Later, testing showed that the child would be disabled. At that point, I told her very frankly yet again that I absolutely did not want this burden. I reminded her that we had agreed on a termination even had the child had been healthy, and I said, in no uncertain terms, that if she decided to press forward with us unilaterally, I would live up to my bare minimum legal obligations and do no more than that. I advised her that being an effectively single mother to a heavily disabled child, requiring lifelong care, would be far more difficult than she seemed to realize, and that no version of reality would this ever lead to the two of us building the happy family I think she was imagining. She disregarded that entirely and brought the baby to term. I saw him exactly once. In the end, her parents legally adopted the child. My rights and obligations were terminated at the time. I lost touch with her, but went on to graduate and have the life I wanted now. I recently heard from her for the first time since the adoption, after she found me on Facebook. Since then, she hasn't done as well for herself. Unfortunately, both of her parents have passed. Her father died of COVID a few years back, and sadly, her mother passed in a car accident a few weeks ago. She's now responsible for her son/adoptive brother and doesn't have the resources to handle him. Apparently, the care for her son was extremely costly even with insurance, and they weren't able to leave much. He's completely incapable of any degree of independence. He's profoundly mentally disabled and can't even feed himself or use a toilet. I told her that I would not be getting involved under any circumstances, advised her to look into any government assistance or charity that her parents may have overlooked, and to see if having him put in some kind of facility would be feasible. I was very firm about her not contacting me again, and I blocked her. My wife agrees with me wholeheartedly about not burdening ourselves with this, but she suggested we might have an ethical obligation to send some money to help with the situation. I disagree, and I'm afraid that giving anything at all will be like feeding seagulls. I want nothing to do with it at all. This isn't a serious conflict between us, but I just want to know if her point has merit. Now for the comments, not the a-hole. You might be the biological father, but the boy was formally adopted by his grandparents, and that meant that they were his legal parents. As you say, your rights and legal obligations were terminated at the time, and therefore you aren't required to step up now after all these years. Maybe offer to help find appropriate care for the boy. It sounds like his physical needs are greater than what his mother/sister can handle alone, never mind the financial headaches. But you aren't under any obligation to help out. I have a feeling that if you gave money, she would keep coming back for more. It's sad, but your ex was aware of your position and what the child's future was likely to be, and she still chose to keep the baby. Without her parents' practical and financial assistance anymore, she needs to get her brother into a home where he can receive the help he needs. Your ex should also receive Social Security payments since the son/brother was legally the son of now deceased parents. Yes, the kid should get survivor benefits for both of his parents along with disability payments via Social Security, assuming they are in the US. If not, I know most other countries have similar programs for the disabled. The child would be obligated for survivor benefits or disability, whichever is greater. With the death of the mother, the survivor benefits could increase but isn't guaranteed. One of those situations where I absolutely thought Opie would be the a-hole, but Opie, I'm now nodding my head in full agreement with you. It was her body carrying the child and her choice to bring a profoundly disabled person into the world. Not a whole lot you could say about that at a time, but it was the choice of her parents to adopt him themselves, thus absolving you of legal responsibility. This is a tough situation, but you also predicted a lot of what actually did come true. You know that raising this kid would be a monumental feat. You never wanted that burden yourself, and you opted out when you could. I don't blame you one bit, and you're not the a-hole. If Opie does decide to lean toward offering anything at all, it should not be done without consulting an attorney. Absolutely, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to consult with a family law attorney, regardless. Update. After reading the advice given in the comments, I decided the best course of action was to continue my policy of refusing any direct involvement in the situation. However, as she explained to me that she was unable to care for the boy on her own, I phoned social services in her state and reported a vulnerable person not being adequately cared for. I was contacted for it. Am I the a-hole for misleading my cousin and destroying his marriage? Original post. There's some really weird drama in my family, and I feel like I'm going insane. So here's the background. My family is a little unusual. There are 3 adults and 2 children. The adults are me, my wife, and another woman best described as my wife's platonic life partner, and also my very dear friend. I'll call the partner Sally. Sally has lived with us for 20 years. The kids call her Ma. We live in a 4-bedroom house, and Sally and the kids each have their own bedrooms. Sally is aromantic and asexual. She and my wife love each other very much, but platonically. Sally is like a sister to me. I cannot overstate how incredibly platonic her relationships with both of us have always been. We're all very happy together. I've been super glad we have her since we had kids. Parenting is so much easier when you have a numbers advantage. My cousin Dave has been married to his wife Mary for something like 15 years. They have 2 kids. Dave talked Mary into opening the relationship about a year ago, and now they're getting divorced because he's struggling to find anyone willing to date him. Well, Mary isn't, and he's incredibly mad about it and destroying their relationship. And by it's, I kind of mean he is. He's jealous and resentful, and making that her problem. And also now mine, because he says it's my fault. According to him, he thought it would totally work great because my family make polygamy and open relationships look easy. Which, what? Setting aside that Sally's relationships with both my wife and me are platonic, there's no open relationship in our household. Sally and I each get a weekly date night with my wife. I take the kids on her night, she takes them on mine. I did say parenting is easier with a numbers advantage. I think my wife and I have significantly more quality time together than we would if it was just the two of us. When the kids can't sleep, they go to Sally. So my wife and I are never disturbed after we go to bed. Sometimes Sally and I go to games together, and my wife takes the kids then, because she's not into sports ball. No one in our house is dating anyone from outside it. These are committed relationships that are, to all intents and purposes, exclusive. None of us has ever mentioned seeing anyone else. Even if we were, which again we're not, I don't see how that would make me responsible for him treating Mary terribly because he's jealous. Somehow, he was apparently convinced that he and his beer gut would get all the girls, but no man would be interested in a charming, kind woman who keeps herself in reasonable shape and bakes the best cupcakes you will ever taste. I'd have dismissed this out of hand, but my aunt, his mother, and like 6 other family members agreed that I'm the a-hole and have been insisting that I should apologize to my idiot cousin and help him talk Mary into closing the relationship and staying with him. I like Mary. We've been friends for 20 years and she's a good person. Also friends with my wife and Sally, and a wonderful aunt to my kids. Given the choice between her and Dave, I'd keep Mary in the family along with her kids. Someone in my family's insane here. Is it me or them? Who's the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole, and your cousin Dave learned a hard lesson many men have learned. They grossly underestimated how attractive their partner will be and grossly overestimate how attractive they will be when they beg to open a marriage. I've read many stories on here that ends like Dave's. She goes along to keep the marriage lively and finds she's quite a prize for others, while bored boy gets left behind in the dust. Makes me laugh out loud every time. You had zero to do with Dave thinking he was going to get laid left and right and getting a rude surprise instead. He made that mess of a bed and he can lay in it. Everyone in the family pointing fingers at you is out of line. Tell them to STF you and back off, or they'll never see/hear from any of you again. Keep in touch with Mary though. She sounds lovely. None of these dudes seem to stop to consider that they're living proof of their wives' low standards and will not be difficult to replace. Tell the flying monkeys to go screw themselves with a cactus. Point out that they are morons. Block them, no contact. Move on. Maybe have a barbecue and invite Mary? Not the a-hole. It would shock no one if Opie were to mention that Dave has always been the apple of his mother's eye. It would explain why Dave believes the sun shines out of his behind, and why he thought women would be lining up to ride him. It would also explain why it cannot be Dave who's screwed up, and why there must be a scapegoat, Opie. I wonder if in addition, Dave's mom was also a golden child of Opie's parental black sheep? I'm the black sheep child of the black sheep, and my parents' golden child sibling and their children will often wonder how come I have these things? Own a home, in a stable committed relationship with a loving partner, own my car, have fun outdoor toys and trips, when their kids don't. I think for a while, my parents' sibling even thought their kids deserved some of my parents' estate when they passed. Now for the update. TLDR. My cousin Dave persuaded his wife Mary to open their relationship. Now he's mad she's dating and he isn't. He was blaming me because he claims my extremely close relationship situation made open relationships look easy, just because there's a third adult in my family. A bunch of other people were hassling me to take the blame. So far so stupid, right? Turns out that, unbeknownst to me, Dave's sister Tina reads this sub a lot. And she saw my post and immediately figured out that it was me, posting about her brother, and she won't tell me if she was one of the commenters or not. But for those of you who called that Dave was the golden child, Tina says you were right on the money. She called me this morning, and she seemed to find that really validating. And I have literally never heard her sound so happy. She's usually pretty depressed, so thanks. Everyone who decided to read into their family dynamics, you did her a solid. That was about 8 a.m. I had to get off the phone to head to work. And then at about 10, I got a text from my wife that just said, "Come home now." I got another one just as I was starting the car that said, "The kids are fine," which I really appreciate, because that at least let me change gears from panic to concern. At some point, we might discuss that. It would be good to include that in the first text. Anyway, not the point. I got home as fast as I safely could. I pulled up on the verge and tried to go in the front door, but the handle's broken. Mary's car was parked in the driveway. I had to go in through the garage. There inside was my wife, Mary, and Mary's eldest Jack, male 12. Mary was banging around the kitchen and Jack was crying on my wife. As I understand it, what happened was, just before she called me, Tina texted her brother a link to the post and made some kind of comment about it. I don't know what exactly she said, but Dave went to a rage. Like the kind of thought he grew out of when we were teenagers, breaking stuff and screaming. I thought the last time he did it was the time he hit my little brother and I beat the crap out of him. I'm not saying it was right, but we were kids. I'm also not saying I'm sorry, to be honest. And then he hit Mary. She's got a bruise coming up on her face. I'm shaking writing this. I feel like it's my fault. I can't remember if we told her that he used to be like that. We honestly thought he'd grown out of it. Mary managed to get the kids in the car and drove straight to our place because she knew there'd be someone home. Sally's a stay-at-home mother, and my wife works from home some days, and there's just generally someone home. Dave followed and tried to force his way in. Apparently, my expensive security door was worth the money because he managed to damage the handle, but the door stayed closed. Seems he gave up and ran when my wife yelled that I was on my way home. Jack burst into tears while he and I were moving furniture, so we talked and hugged for a bit, and I was having a lie down in my bed because he was kinda wrung out. We're waiting for a locksmith as well to fix the door. After that, we're going to take him and Mary to the police station to make a report and give statements and whatever's involved in all that. Sally took our kids and Mary's youngest to my parents' place, in case Dave came back. They're too young for this, but Jack refused to leave his mother. We're going to meet up with them after the police station. Those of you who said we should adopt Mary are getting their wish, at least for now. Jack's going to be sleeping in my youngest big boy bed. The kid let guests stay in his cot and sleep in Sally's room for a bit. And Mary's youngest and my eldest will be sharing a room because they're only a few months apart and they get on well. Mary's sleeping in our couch until we get all this figured out. My youngest will probably think this is the best day ever. He hates his big boy bed and is going to get a reprieve from the transition. Plus, he gets to share a room with his ma, and there'll be cupcakes in the house because Mary's stress bakes, and our kitchen counter will be covered in cupcakes. I should add that according to Tina, Dave was telling his family that I talked him into the open marriage thing specifically because I wanted to sleep with Mary. Plus, a bunch of other nonsense that I've honestly forgotten. It's been absolute crap of a day. It is only 2:30. I'm pretty sure I just acquired 12-year-old son 10 years early and seriously messed up, at least for a while. And I have to figure out how I'm going to fit Jack's needs into my life without neglecting my own kids. I can't even tell if I'm exaggerating. Jack's a wreck. And maybe those please be my dad now vibes are temporary, but maybe they're not. You know. Thanks everyone for all of your input. Don't be mad at Tina. I don't think there's any way she could have predicted Dave would lose his mind. I'm not saying it was right. Well, I sure as heck am. Sounds like he needs a repeat performance. Word. I think you need a bigger house so that Mary can stay and maybe bring home a Sally of her own. Heck, even a brick could have more feeling for her than her soon-to-be ex-husband. You aren't responsible. Dave was going to snap sooner or later. Your post moved the timeline up, and while Mary's bruised, she's alive. If something else had triggered him, it could have been worse. Next story. Am I the a-hole for saying I won't ask for help from my in-laws ever again? My husband, 30 male, and I, 27 female, have been married for a little over a year now, but have been together for over 3. He's an only child, which has brought up a couple of issues along the way, but nothing we haven't been able to resolve. When we got married, we moved out of state due to my husband being in grad school and a job offer I got. Unfortunately, life hit us with a curveball, and the office I was working at closed. My husband was close to being done with grad school, and we decided to move back home. My in-laws volunteered to help us with the move back, driving the truck, packing, all of it. They are retired and have the time, so we figured we'd take the help. They stayed with us for close to 2 weeks where we paid for everything. We made the move, and a week after we get settled in, I get a bill from my mother-in-law for all the expenses they incurred in for helping us move. I was very upset, but my husband wasn't even fazed. I asked him what the reasoning for the bill was, and he said they're retired and on a fixed income, so these expenses weren't in their budget. I agreed to pay them what they were asking for, but told my husband I am never asking them for help ever again. I told him we didn't ask for them to come help, they just volunteered. Yet they're charging me for their gas, hotel for the drive back, and some meals? He says I'm overreacting. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. I wouldn't ever ask them for help again either. I hope that they at least helped enough that it wasn't a waste of your hard-earned money. If you have children or pets that they watch for you, will you get a care bill from them? Like, where does this end? They also should have said ahead of time what they expected their costs to be. Or, since it sounds like your husband expected this, he should have given you a heads up at least. Seriously, this is bizarre behavior. OP should definitely send them an itemized bill for 2 weeks of lodging and all expenses she incurred. Who cares that they're retired? She's unemployed, which seems to be a much worse situation. The balls on some people. Of course not the a-hole. Or if you go over for dinner at their house, will they give you bill at the end? Do you have to tip? Not the a-hole. Hire professionals if you're going to pay people. Not the a-hole. You were also in a situation where you needed to be mindful of your budget. If it had been discussed ahead of time, you could have simply said, thanks very much, but we can't afford to cover these expenses. We'll be taking care of moving on our own, or budgeted for their expenses. Even worse, that her other post from a few months ago is that her husband wouldn't get a job and wasn't interested in taking finances seriously. Not the a-hole OP, but you need to have a bigger conversation with your husband and his financial expectations. He should be responsible for paying his parents, not you. Not the a-hole. As someone that unfortunately had in-laws like this once before, please understand that this is exactly how they will continue to behave for the rest of the relationship together. It will not end here, and this isn't the only situation they will find a way to tally expenses and bill you for. Think very carefully about this, and if you want this for the rest of your life, a serious talk needs to be had about it. And I really don't see how your husband doesn't think this is absolutely absurd. It's something you should come together with on him as well. I'm now divorced from that situation, but holy crap, it was an absolute nightmare. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not letting my sister use my address to send her kids to school here? My sister Jane is a single mother to her autistic son James. James was having a hard time at his school. His school district is severely underfunded, and they just do not care. The schools where I live are pretty nice, and my neighbors, who have kids, said they have a lot of great programs for kids like him. Since I had extra room, I decided to offer to let Jane and James move in with me so he could go to school here. Since he started, he's been doing really great here. The teachers and aides are much more engaged than at his old school. They've really been helping him work through some of his behaviors as well. My other sister Leah is being weird about it though. Besides the better teacher and aides, the school James goes to has a lot of other activities, resources, and in general is just a lot nicer. Leah and her family lived in the same town that Jane and James used to live, so her kids go to the underfunded school. Now, she wants to send her kids to school here too. However, they're not taking any out-of-town students. So Leah wants to use my address so she can send her kids to school here. From what I have seen online, it looks like it can be considered fraud to do that. It's a fairly tight-knit community. People would definitely figure out what we were doing and that they didn't actually live here, so I don't want to take the risk. Besides, Leah's kids aren't having trouble in school. Their school may not be the best, but they're doing okay. Still, Leah thinks it's unfair I won't help her kids get out of the crappy school by using my address, when I have let Jane and James move in just so we can go to school here. It's wonderful that you've opened your home to support your sister Jane and her son James in providing a better educational environment. Your decision to help them was a thoughtful and caring gesture, and it's making a positive impact on James' life. Regarding your sister Leah's situation, it's important to remember that each family's circumstances are unique. It's not unreasonable for you to prioritize your family's well-being and follow the rules of the school district. Jane and James were in a particularly challenging situation, and you made a choice that was important to their immediate needs. While Leah's desire to provide a better education for her kids is understandable, using your address in this manner may lead to legal or ethical concerns, as you've pointed out. You're well within your rights to make this decision, and it's essential for Leah to respect her choice, just as you've supported Jane and James in their time of need. Ultimately, you've shown kindness and support within your means, and it's okay to set boundaries to ensure the well-being of all involved. Not the a-hole. There are ways to enrich children's educational development that don't involve fraud. Your sister needs to look into that. I think it's great of you to provide your nephew with special needs resources he really needed. Not the a-hole. If Leah got busted, her kids would be out, and the school district would definitely check on Jane and her son. It is considered fraud, and you and Leah would be liable. My town is vicious, going after families that use fake methods to get their children enrolled. I would not let her use my address. Where I live, families who lie about their address are fined equivalent to tuition. Sucks that not everywhere has solid schools, but committing fraud isn't a way to fix this issue.